I used to do more coffee videos about comparisons of roast levels and filter types and all that. And I've been thinking for a while that I should do an update video of what actually I've decided to use and what's been working, just in case you're interested. I guess I'll start with the brewing methods. At home, I use 2 pour-over methods. At work, I use the AeroPress, which I didn't bring home with me, but I use the V60 just into a glass carafe at home if I'm doing a single cup. And I've been doing just Hario, the white paper filters. I know they've got brown paper filters, and technically, depending on what color the wrapper is and where you get them from, they're made in different places and have a slight difference. I just bought a whole bunch of these all at the same time, so I have not experienced that yet. But I do like the taste of the paper filters over the metal filter. So I've been using that, and do 25 grams of beans for 400 grams of water when I'm doing this one. And then I use the same ratio when I'm doing 2 in my, and this has been handy when my wife and I want different coffee. Or like when my parents come to visit, my dad does decaf, my mom doesn't, so you do 1 cup at a time. My wife has gotten the Ely coffee beans, and so she's been using those, and I use something else. So it's handy for that. In the instances where we're going to be using the same kind of bean, just using the Chemex, just because it's easier. You get a little bit less coffee in your cup when I use this, and that's mostly based on the kettle that I'm using. I'll talk about that in a minute. But again, I just stuck with the Chemex brand paper filters, and haven't experimented with anything else. So those are the 2 things that I use here. In terms of equipment, been using the Fellow Stag kettle, just because, look, that's got to be the sexiest kettle out there. The one thing I wish was a little bit different is its volume. And that's why I was saying that we get a little bit smaller cups with this. If I do 700 grams of water in this, could probably do a little bit more, but if you fill this up to the fill line and then wet your filter and kind of preheat the glass, and then what's left, maybe you could get up to 750. I haven't really pushed it, but that's kind of maxing out pretty close to what's in this kettle. The other issue that I had earlier on is that the base of this is very simple. I don't know if we can turn it on without the kettle on it. Oh well, it says Fellow there, and you can see it's got set temperature, so you just turn this knob to change the temperature it's set at. Pretty simple. But this on-off button, which is also the adjustment knob, slowly stopped working in the first 2 bases that I had. It should just be a button click on and off, and it got to be where you had to push it in just the right spot to get it to do it, and then push it 3 or 4 times. Wrote to Fellow about that. They sent a whole new setup, kettle and base, the first time, and worked perfect when I first got it, and then it happened again. And that time they just sent a new base and said, go ahead and toss the one you have, or keep it as a backup or whatever. And this one's been fine ever since. So I really do think, if that happened to everybody, people wouldn't be buying these things. And I didn't really read anything about that. So I think they probably just had a bad batch of them or something. But this one's been perfect ever since. I really like the ergonomics of it. I like the pouring speed you get, and adjustability of that. Really the only thing other thing might be is that the top can be a little bit finicky, though I guess that means you don't have to worry about it falling off at all or getting loose. But it's got some steam holes. It's also full of water. Let's see, I'll show you here. It's got the steam holes up here. So if it is hot and you need to fill it up again, you just need to be a little careful with that. The Fellow Ode Grinder, which again is, it's just a beautiful beautifully designed piece of machinery. Again, I enjoy the entire experience, so things that just make it more beautiful and fun to use. I'm into that. I'll grind some beans with this so you can see. I think it's pretty quiet for a grinder. Also, I got my scale here. This is just a cheapie off of Amazon. I'm going to show you something else that I kind of learned that's been super helpful for me. I told you I use 25 grams of beans when I make coffee at home. I use 20 grams at work for the AeroPress. I'm measuring out 20 grams here, and I'm going to show you why. So we'll put that in here. Some people have said that one of the complaints about the Ode is that you can't get fine enough. I don't know what they're using, or just have different tastes or different beans. I do this at about a 3.1. You can see it's still got some range here. I guess they say that, you're not using all this side of the range, which, granted you're not, but as long as you can get as fine as you need to be and get a setting that works for you, I guess I don't see what the problem is. Again, I guess I'm just not as much of a coffee nerd that I don't need a lot of micro adjustments either. I do adjust some. Let me grind this and we'll talk about that a little bit. So one, leave this, set your grind level there. One button here. Done, and then auto off, which is super cool. Oh, who doesn't love the smell of freshly brewed coffee? It's got a knock lever on the side here. Now, one of the other complaints people have had is about how many grounds, the volume of grounds that it retains in there. So not only do this, I smack it like that on the side, and then the container is just this magnet set in there. Just poop into place. So I just push the little grounds back on there, and then you can see in here, you see that it's got like a little pouring spout almost on one side. So when I'm pouring into, the Chemex or whatever, here I use this side. But let me show you. This is my own invention. I got these off the internet, and this is what's called what is it called? A push up makeup tube or something like that. The bottom of this, in theory, you can push it up, and if you've got, I don't know what you would put in here that you need such a big, for lip, it's obviously not lipstick. But anyway, you can push this up and it pushes the product out the top. I glued this shut, and what I do, I'll get this down here, and I use kind of the pouring spout side, and I'm gonna make a funnel for myself. But right now I just use my fingers as the rest of the funnel. Tap this, use the kind of the pouring spout built into this container. All right, so that's all in there now. Now check this out. Just like that. Now I got 20 grams of freshly ground coffee. Take this to work and use it in my AeroPress. I used to use a hand grinder at work, so given that that's even fresher ground coffee, but how easy was this? So that's that. I'm going to do another one because I want to then show you something if it happens. I want to do 2 grinds here since I just moved it. So we're going to measure out 20 grams again. Anyway, one of the things that people, the other complaint I heard about with this is the mess, that it gets kind of all over the place. And I know that there's a technique you can use. It's got a special name to it, where you spritz just a touch of water on the beans to get rid of some of the static electricity. I haven't messed with that yet. All right. The one thing, just like this, I did have a little growing pains with this at the beginning. There were 3 or 4 times where the beans halfway through wouldn't feed in anymore, where I know that it hadn't fed in all the way, but there's still beans here, and you can't get in to the top here. There's a, you know, so you don't get your finger down in there. So I had to turn it upside down and shake it, and then it was fine. That happened, like I said, just sporadically, maybe 4 times at the most, and then since then it hasn't happened at all. So it's almost like, I don't know, something had to work itself into position or something. I don't know. It's weird that it just stopped and it hasn't happened for a very long time. Okay, so I've ground twice now. You've seen, after each time I use the knocker, I smack the side of it. So now watch this. Can you see this? Can you see all the ground? So there are some there. Sometimes you get a little bit bigger pile. But that's what people are talking about, is after I've smacked it a couple of different ways, done my stuff, come back and just kind of moved it on the counter. And it's almost like it like resettles and then it gets another jolt and more stuff comes out. I don't know. That's not a huge deal to me, the amount of this that you're either losing or is left over when you make your next batch. Not a huge deal, but I just thought I'd point that out. Anyway, we were talking about range on this. I use 3.1 setting for the V60 and for my AeroPress at work. I crank it up now a little bit, just 1 or 2 when I'm doing the Chemex, just because of the longer brew time with this. And I've been experimenting with up with 4, just with different types of beans. So anyway, so that's my range. It used to be here to here. That's about all I use of it. So that's one thing. If you're going to get super scientific about your grind level and want minute changes, this would not be it for you. But in terms of noise and speed and everything else, like I said, people complain about the static. I didn't even set a habit. I do this. If you saw, I take it off and I just kind of push everything back in there. Hasn't bothered me at all. Anyway, there you go. That's kind of a summary of what I found works for me. If you decide you want to, you know, market these things, let's get together. I'll hook you up. We'll become millionaires. See you on the forum.